In the last video, I talked about the idea of loving our fate and striving to turn every adversity into an advantage, an idea advocated by the Stoics as well as Friedrich Nietzsche with Amor Fati. So the concept is simple: to embrace every outcome life offers regardless of our desires. So the Stoics and Nietzsche portray adversities as the stepping stones to realizing our ideal selves. Each hardship we face builds us up, shaping us into the person we aspire to become. If we understand the importance of adversity, one question comes to mind: how can we train ourselves to better face it? So in this video, we are going to explore together 3 Stoic techniques that will help us to do so. When it comes to facing adversity, a powerful technique comes to mind, which is premeditating it, commonly known in the Stoic world as negative visualization. So negative visualization is a powerful Stoic technique that encourages us to contemplate and visualize the loss of any relationships, material possessions, or even our health. So by envisioning the absence of these things, the Stoics aim to cultivate gratitude for what they currently possess and never take anything for granted. Seneca said, "He robs present ills of their powers who have perceived they are coming beforehand. Misfortune weighs most heavily on those who expect nothing but fortune." In challenging times, some may think that negative visualization will be unhelpful, fearing it could worsen the situation. However, in reality, it offers a valuable perspective. By acknowledging that things could be worse, we gain a deeper sense of appreciation for our current situation. This practice allows us to find gratitude and a renewed sense of appreciation even in difficult situations. When we genuinely reach the point of realizing that the situation is not as bad as it first appears, we can effectively minimize the drama and the stress it may bring. This shift in perspective allows us to approach the situation with a calmer mindset, which is necessary in difficult situations. So if you're interested to learn more about negative visualization, I invite you to check the first video on the channel where I discuss this technique in detail. So Seneca recommends an extension of the negative visualization technique. Besides contemplating bad things happening to us, we should live as if these things have already happened. So the objective here, according to Seneca, is to take this exercise from the mental sphere to the physical sphere and actually getting to experience the discomfort the situation might bring. Musonius Rufus also prescribes this idea and argues that we should cause ourselves to experience discomfort that could easily have been avoided. He gives the example of going shoeless outside or underdressing in the cold in order to feel the discomfort that comes with that. So these examples are definitely extreme for our modern lives, so the goal here is not to blindly apply them. However, the goal is to understand the purpose or the main idea behind that and to apply them in our lives accordingly. In the video on negative visualization, I gave an example of a car owner who imagines losing his car and having to take the bus to work. This exercise helps the person appreciate their car more, regardless of the brand, the speed, the model, or even the state of the car. Following Seneca's advice, the person should occasionally not use their car and instead take public transportation to experience what life would be like without a car. By experiencing the lack of convenience they're so accustomed to, the person will realize how fortunate they are to own a car. If this example doesn't speak to you because you don't own a car, me neither actually, the purpose here is to test and analyze something you rely on and you're not really that grateful for. And this is what Epicurus from the rival philosophy of Stoicism did. He also engaged in a similar practice, however, his intentions were different. He wanted to examine the things he believed he needed in order to see whether he could truly live without them or not. By contemplating their absence, he wanted to gain absolute clarity on their actual importance in his life. He realized that in many cases we work hard to obtain things because we convince ourselves that we need them. But in reality, it's not really the case, because once he obtained these things, he discovered that he didn't really need them that much. So one might ask, Why welcome discomfort when we can live in perfectly comfortable lives? And the first obvious benefit is to harden ourselves. According to Musonius, when facing voluntary discomfort, we harden ourselves against adversities that might befall us in the future. He says if we're not ready or not trained well enough, we might be traumatized when we're forced to experience mild discomfort or even any pain in our lives. He believed that by intentionally subjecting ourselves to discomfort, we expand our comfort zones. This means that we become more resilient and more adaptable in different situations and circumstances. If we're accustomed to feeling cold, hungry, thirsty, or tired, then there is very little that can unsettle us or make us feel uncomfortable. William Irvine made a really good analogy in his book, A Guide to the Good Life. He said that voluntary discomfort is like getting a vaccine. By exposing ourselves to a smaller amount of the virus, we can create an immunity that will protect us from an illness in the future. For example, I've been doing intermittent fasting for the past 7 years, but not at all for the same reasons. However, I realized that I managed to control my hunger and would rarely get grumpy or angry when I'm hungry. Whereas someone who never experiences hunger would be driven by their emotions and easily become irritated, simply because they're not accustomed to this feeling of discomfort. The key to reducing the fear of certain outcomes is to actually expose ourselves to them. We experience that a perceived negative outcome is not as bad as we thought it would be. This way, we become familiar with the feeling and thus more prepared for it for the future. Seneca had a really nice quote about this. It is precisely in times of immunity from care that the soul should toughen itself beforehand for occasions of greater stress, and it is while fortune is kind that it should fortify itself against her violence. So the second benefit is more concrete and takes place immediately. A person who experiences mild or minor discomforts will be confident in his ability to withstand major ones as well. Going through difficulties and overcoming them, we develop confidence in our ability to face similar challenges. So we know for a fact if the hardship happens to us, we will face it without any problem. So by doing so, we eliminate completely a lot of the anxieties from the things that might happen in the future. So the third benefit is that it helps us appreciate and value the things that we already have in our lives. For instance, when we experience discomfort, we tend to appreciate the comfort that we've always taken for granted. Diogenes the Cynic also used to say that by waiting until we're hungry to eat, it greatly enhances the appreciation we have for the meal. Well, it appears to be a straightforward quote or a straightforward advice, but when you apply that to more important things in your life, you really see the benefit of it. Seneca advises us to put our bodies through difficult situations so we have better control over it. He says, "The body should be treated rigorously, that it may not be disobedient to the mind." So the goal here is to create challenging schedules for ourselves and to be consistently stimulating our minds and our bodies. So I will not use here the word discomfort as I used before, because I believe a stimulating task, whether physically or mentally, should be exciting and challenging and not really uncomfortable. So something for the body can be a run, working out, or a specific sport that we like to do, and something for the mind would be reading, learning a skill, or even learning a language. As long as we're stimulating ourselves, pushing our boundaries and limitations, then we're consistently growing and preparing for adversity. Personally, the 3 hard things that I always do to stimulate myself are reading, working out, and meditating for 10 minutes every day. I have found that these habits lie in the perfect balance between being challenging but not too overwhelming, making them easy to stick to. By doing these things consistently, I have trained my mind to lead my body and also started appreciating hard things. For example, I find it easier to control my impulses and my desires. These are just examples of things you can implement to challenge yourself and push your boundaries. But in no way this is an exhaustive list. You can adapt it and do whatever you want as long as you stimulate your mind and your body. We all have 2 voices in our heads. The motivated one that pushes us towards improvement, and the lazy one that's like the self-inner critic that pushes us to being lazy and undermine our efforts. By regularly exposing ourselves to challenging tasks, we gradually silence our inner critic and develop a preference for difficulty, as if our brain becomes wired to appreciate it. While the idea of voluntary discomfort may seem challenging or even counterintuitive, not practicing it can make life much harder in the long run. From a broader perspective, we should always keep in mind that adversity is an inherent part of our lives. Instead of fearing it or resisting it, we should embrace it as a catalyst for growth and change. Seneca said, "Fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men." Every adversity is like a piece of a puzzle. When it strikes us, it's really difficult to see how it fits in the bigger picture. However, if we take a step back and look from a broader perspective, we'll see that everything flows and fits perfectly. A reminder for myself and for anyone watching this video, we should strive to live in the present moment and appreciate our current experience no matter what it is. It's good to be prepared, but it's even more important to trust the process and have faith. Thank you for watching.